right. Well, Kufar Akbar, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Crossing the Crescent discussion group. We are here every Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. No, we're not. Central Standard Time, not Eastern Standard Time. My fault. And we usually go for about 2 hours or so, depending on the topic. Today, I got a feeling that we're going to go all of the 2 hours. And I was looking at the people here, and I don't see, our sister Connie just updated the intro video for us. And she doesn't show up for the new intro that she updated, but it is good. She put in a couple new clips about the Palestinian shooting rockets into Israel and the Iron Dome. You guys should have been here before the show, because I think we were kind of in the midst of some group therapy going on. Brother Chris was in here, and he gave us a good update on his son. So make sure that you keep his son in your prayers. Going through all of that that is going through, but it looks like he's turned the what's the word I'm looking for? Turn the corner. There we go. Turn the corner. There we go. Let's turn the corner.
Praise
turn the corner on this. Jesus. What?
Praise the risen Lord Jesus on that.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, and I continue to keep him in prayers. Keep Ed and his family in your prayers. And then my dog died yesterday, so I'm kind of down in the dumps over that. So I guess maybe we should have extended for maybe an additional 30 minutes, to talk about all our problems and our troubles and whatnot. But I've been kind of an emotional mess all day. But we are going to do this today to make all of ourselves feel better by educating the world about what Islam is, what Islam has done, and how people defend some of the things that Muhammad did. And today, we're going to be looking at last year's debate between Kenny Bomer and David Wood. Last year, they had a debate about the age of Aiesha, whether it was proper, whether it was moral, or whatever. And we're doing another. We did an after action review, or we talked about it, the debate after it come out. And we went through it, but we're doing this again today because they're going to debate again this Friday. And the topic of the debate this Friday is whether or not the age was Muhammad's marriage to Aiesha moral?
Immoral. It's the same topic.
Okay.
It's the exact same topic. I guess
how could it be a different outcome? I mean, because
I don't know. It's a do-over.
He cited all these. He's citing. Well, this article says this. Well, this book says this. Well, this. Well, why don't you go to the? What do your sources say? What do your original sources say? I was sitting there. Okay, what I've been doing for the last day, not even a day. Last night I started. I got 14 pages of stuff here. I was going through the transcript of the debate, but thankfully Rad put as equal amount, if not more, effort into cutting it up and providing us clips here to look at. But I'm going through this and I'm thinking, okay, how can you sit here and make this argument without going to the original sources? This would be the equivalent of taking commentaries, biblical commentaries, okay, on the Bible, not the passages themselves, but the commentaries on them, what people had said about them, and then developing your theology just from the commentaries themselves and not the sources. And that's what we saw in the debate. There was not one source, not one hadith cited by the Imam.
Not one primary sources is what he did.
Say that again?
Not one primary source, all tertiary.
Yeah. This is how you do history. You look at the primary sources, or at least secondary sources. What do people say? But you don't rely on commentaries. But that's what he did.
It's actually worse than that.
It is.
I didn't realize it until I went through it and cut it out clip by clip. Just how bad it was, and it's my hope in this because Kenny's got a week for the other debate. Kenny, I hope you don't do this because we know you're listening, Kenny, because you always do. But Kenny, I sincerely hope that you learn from this, okay, and walk away from this, and do not show up to the debate again with such
I hope he shows
arguments. Up. No, I'm
show up.
saying,
at least have a stand to take because he doesn't have one.
Do better, yeah. Do better. Well, why don't we pull it up? Let's play some of these clips and we'll get through it here.
All right. Let me find out what I did.
Oh, everything is.
Can you learn
there-
something?
Where did
Oh.
we go?
With everything going on, we all need a good laugh. So yeah, Kenny, show up, buddy.
Oh, I hope he does
Yeah.
show up because it is funny either way. But
What did I do here?
and then I was listening to the atheist debate. He actually did better in the atheist debate, but that was only because the atheist at the end broke down and said there was nothing wrong with doing crack with his son at the dinner table. And I was like, are you totally stupid? I mean, it was at that point that Kenny actually did sort of win the debate, but only for that reason.
Wow.
Okay, I think I found it.
Well, when things are against the law, you have to abide by the law too. So
I heard
Yeah,
that British Columbia, they just did what Oregon and Washington State, they've legalized fentanyl and meth and everything. I'm like, dude, didn't you see what Portland has happened there? I mean, people are idiots, dude. They keep doing the same things over and over again, like different
Well,
results.
if they're doing that, then the intention is to dumb down the masses. That's what
I
they're
think
doing.
it's to kill the masses. If they're
Well-
legalizing fentanyl, it's to kill them.
Dumb
not
them down and
necessarily
kill
kill
them and turn them
No,
into
no. Paul, you don't
controllable
understand.
zombies.
You don't understand, Paul. It's to reduce harm. It's to reduce the number of drug addicts. No, this is what they're saying. Because it's stigmatized. Drug use is so stigmatized that people won't get help and they'll die alone of an overdose. Where in this way, yeah, they're just stupid. All right,
Yep.
so let's get into this. Let's see what you got for me.
Okay, hold on. Let me hold on. Let me try this again. Let me try it one more time. I didn't make sure I clicked that
Play sound.
share audio
sound button. That
Whoa.
sound button.
Didn't
We keep
make
forgetting to
sure that you
push.
click that.
Hold on, guys. Cut me some slack.
I always forget myself, so I can't say anything.
No, that's
Yeah, we're
not it.
professionals here.
Cancel. Okay, so click that, and that comes up. Okay, and then click this. Share screen. Share audio tab window. Share. Okay, tell me. Okay, we're just going to do a real quick sound check. Tell me if you can hear this.
The obvious reason.
Yes,
is,
hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now tell me if
I
you.
would make it full picture.
Yeah. But tell me if it's echoing.
with a child is disgusting and perverted.
Echo.
Okay. All right. So let's do this.
So I think okay. So this clip, pause it, rewind it. So this clip, rewind it. This is where Kenny actually lost the debate because David Wood is actually quoting Kenny, in his argument that he had, or when he was attacking, Connie. We also played that video. Actually, I shared that video with David Wood through oh god, I can't think of his name, through Anthony Rogers, where Kenny goes off and, well, go ahead and play it. Let's get Kenny's own words here.
The obvious reason is that having sex with a child is disgusting and perverted. But this is a debate, so I can't just say that it's disgusting and perverted. I need to prove my case. Fortunately, I have a quotation from someone whose words will be accepted even by my opponent.
This is
Even
classic.
Kenny will have to agree with this. There's a quote from an expert in religious matters after the expert was asked about sex with 9-year-old girls. He said, I don't know about you, but let's be honest with it. I'm a 50-year-old man, and I've seen women that are far more attractive than 9-year-old girls. They're far more developed. I'm just trying to put things in perspective. A 9-year-old girl versus a woman. Men like women. There's perverts out there, but usually those people have issues with their lack of performance or impotence or things of that nature. So those are perverts. Those are people who have issues. So according to this expert, grown men are attracted to grown women. A grown man who's attracted to a 9-year-old girl is a pervert, someone who has issues. I said that even my opponent will have to agree with these words because these words were spoken by Kenny.
Wow, that's powerful. I agree with that. That's a valid argument. That's a valid argument. It's very strong.
And Kenny did say that. We have the audio. I wish I could.
Yeah,
No, but I
he
mean, it's
did.
a true statement too. It is really disgusting to like
Yeah.
little children like that. That's a gross thing. I mean, I think everybody here is going to agree with that.
Exactly. Right.
Well, you couldn't get a better authority on this than the opponent.
But so let's pull up the screen share. Let's go through a couple of his clips because I want to get through a lot of these. They're short clips. I want to show you his argument and how it's basically. I call it the argument of the dilemma. He's actually arguing in favor of a dilemma. It's kind of funny. So go to number 2.
And as we get started, I'd like to ask the audience and viewers to approach what I have to say as if you walked into a courtroom of logic and reason.
Okay.
I ask you to clear your minds, think for yourselves, and to consider that you often find out more about the accuser than the one being accused if you're willing to open yourself up and listen.
Okay, pause it. So everybody, this is the courtroom of logic and reason. We open our minds, okay? We're going to listen for the evidence. We're going to, really, take heart and not be judgmental and not be bigoted and have biases and whatever. And we pulled up. Let's hear.
No, I just want to say something about that because that was one of the clips that I had commented on in my small book here that I wrote. Notice how he says, okay, he wants you to clear your biases and use logic, right? But he himself is using his biases and he's not following the rules of logic when we try to ascertain historical facts. And so he's trying to poison. This is a debating tactic. He's trying to poison the well. If you don't agree with me, then you're biased and you don't use the rules of logic. So and people don't often recognize this, but this is exactly what he's doing. He's saying, if you don't agree with me, then you're unreasonable and you're illogical. So, or you're biased and you're illogical. So it's a sophomoric type debating tactic.
Eric, don't you understand? Kenny is unbiased. He has no bone to pick. He has no preconceived bias. He's just going where. Well, anyway, let's see what his evidence is. Let's see what is first. This is horn. Let's say this is the right horn of his dilemma. This is his first.
Is misleading people on this topic by engaging in what's called presentism and ethnocentrism, and by attempting to misalign facts. He's only giving you part of the story that he wants you to hear. So what?
Okay, so that's horn one of the dilemmas. So he's arguing. Okay, you're arguing by taking today's moral standard, okay, which be having sex with 9-year-old kids is a bad thing, but it wasn't, in our Western society, in this modern day society, that having sex with a 9-year-old girl is a bad thing. But that's wrong of us to judge Muhammad for that, because it wasn't a bad thing in Muhammad's time, okay, and we can't, and it was an Arab cultural thing, so it's not right for us to judge us by that. Unfortunately, like I said, that's horn one of his dilemma, because if he was going to argue that, that's fine. But the other problem, he goes to the other horn of the dilemma in the saying, well, wait, I don't know how old she was. She could be 18, 19, what? In other words, he's now judging. In other words, he's now coming out in favor, saying that she was actually older because of his moral biases in the 21st century, because he's actually committing, okay, the argument of ethnocentricity or whatever he calls it. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, so he argues that you can't use that argument, but then by saying that she was actually older, he's arguing in favor of that argument. Do you see what I'm saying? Because he's saying, well, no.
Well, here's what he's doing, Rad. Is he's saying that we're using our almost universally accepted standards for morality and conduct today, and then we're applying it back. We're redacting that back to a 7th century, guy that lived in Arabia. And he says it's unfair to do that. And in a lot of ways, that is true, because when we look at history holistically to try to judge a culture or society, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, by using today's standards is not treating their culture fairly. As an example, for slavery. If we were to look at slavery today, there's almost nobody on this planet that would say that slavery is a culturally accepted practice, and that we should try to teach people not to engage in slavery. But he's missing the point, and here's the point. People today will universally condemn pedophilia. However, pedophilia that existed in Arabia in the 7th century. However, the problem is that people today Muslims today are expected to emulate the pattern of conduct, follow the sunnah of Muhammad. That's the problem. That's the problem that he's missing here. He's saying, well, it's not fair to judge people. That's fine. We shouldn't judge them. However, practicing slavery is not sunnah for the majority of the world. Where it is in Islam, where it is pedophilia, this practice of marrying underage girls, is following. If Muhammad did it, it's sunnah. It's something that's permissible. They don't have to do it. It's not obligatory, but it's permissible. And that's the whole point, that he's trying to veer people from recognizing this.
Well, exactly.
Phenomenon. There's another problem, if you don't mind me quick. There's another problem too. This is a problem if you're taking a conservative Muslim perspective, not a leftist one, but if you're taking a conservative Muslim perspective, you're going to have a major issue. Islam has to be timeless, according to the conservative position. It has to be for all time. So everything of that time is valid now. The Quran has to be timeless. This is the position a conservative Muslim has to take. This is why there are lots of justifications for it. A lot of people are like, well, she was really mature for her age. And particularly, and here's another argument too that we didn't include here. Muslims have a diversity. There's Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah and Shi'atul Ali. So you have Sunnis and Shias that are the major, components of Islam. Shias don't have this problem, but Sunnis do, because Sunnis are carrying their Ahlul Hadith. They do believe in the Hadith, so they're going to have to hold on to this. There's really no way out of it. And, if Aiesha radiallahu anha, according to Islamic tradition, is narrating this, then it has to be fact, because she is, a narrator. So for Sunni Muslims, and I feel that Imam Bomer is taking this position of the Sunni Islam. I would say that's probably where he's standing on here. So if he's going to take the Sunni Muslim position, it's going to be very hard to argue out of it. That's what I would say.
Well, actually, hold on, pause this. Okay. So you're right, Isa. Okay, but the problem is he's not taking either one. He's trying to look for an escape clause. That's why he's arguing on a dilemma. He's arguing on the one hand, we cannot judge, in the 7th century, but to counteract the part where we're bringing up, when we're saying, no, we can't do that, we're not doing that, because Muhammad is the moral example to mankind, and anything Muhammad did, you can emulate, and it's a good thing if you do, including marrying a 9-year-old girl and having sex with her. So to counteract that, he's then going with I don't know how old she was, which we'll find out later. Let's go ahead and play a couple more clips. You'll see how more of his argument kind of develops.
Okay.
Play clip number 4. Oh yeah. So here we go.
Obviously, you've heard it. He's accusing the prophet of being a pedophile. Astaghfirullah, that's far from the truth. So during this debate, I will not be attempting to prove or disprove any hadith about Aiesha's age, or I'm not trying to prove or disprove any scholar. This debate is not about the reliability of hadith, and I do not necessarily agree nor disagree with any Muslim or non-Muslim scholar that I mentioned. My point is that there are different theories about the age of Aiesha when the marriage is consummated. And so,
let me say something real quick, because that really bothers me. Because let's hold on, let me just replay.
That's far from the truth. So during this debate, I will not be attempting to prove or disprove any hadith about Aiesha's age, or I'm not trying to prove or disprove any scholar. This debate is not about the reliability of hadith.
Okay, so what he's basically doing is he's wiping all the evidence that is provided for this accusation that David is making, that Muhammad's marriage to Aiesha was immoral. He said, we can't use any of that. Why? Because we're not arguing whether or not the hadiths are authentic, we're not going to use those hadiths. What we're going to do is we're going to run right to these modern scholars who live in the Western Hemisphere, or who live in the Western culture, where you have the Judeo-Christian ethic. We're going to use that criteria, their eisegesis of the hadith, and then we're going to rely only on that to arrive at our conclusion. This is a debating tactic that it falls flat on its face. So let me go back to it. I'm sorry.
No, also notice though, he says Muhammad did nothing wrong. So we can't say that having sex with a 9-year-old girl is wrong, obviously, because that would say Muhammad did something wrong.
Well, he did admit that in that video that I don't know
right, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got it somewhere. I'll find it. We can play it if we have time at the end. If I get time, okay. But either way, so Muhammad did nothing wrong, but it's wrong to judge him by our standards. So therefore, like you said, Eric, we're just going to wipe away everything. I don't have to prove anything from any of the sources, because I'm just telling you that Muhammad did nothing wrong. Okay, so let's pull up the playlist. Finish playing out this clip.
And I do not necessarily agree nor disagree with any Muslim or non-Muslim scholar that I mentioned. My point is that there are different theories about the age of Aiesha when the marriage is consummated. And so
notice he said theories. Keep that in mind.
There's therefore reasons for doubt. However, what Muslim and non-Muslim scholars do agree about is that there was absolutely no wrongdoing on the part of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let's be clear.
All Muslim scholarship agree that there was no wrongdoing on the part of Muhammad.
Because he's the perfect example of mankind. Exactly.
Right. Why do you think there is no? I mean, he even goes on. He expounds on this. I don't know if you included it here, but he actually expounds on this. He goes, "We don't find any writings out there condemning Muhammad's marriage to Aiesha from nobody that lived with him." Well, okay. Number one, we don't have any writings from that era from Mecca because Mecca didn't exist. But just forget that fact right there. We don't have any writings about that because anybody that would choose to criticize Muhammad, what happened to him? He had him killed. So there's no way to minimize the amount of dissent that you would get and to go off your opponents for daring to criticize you. So to make this argument that nobody's going to condemn him for this is absolutely ridiculous.
So basically,
sorry, go ahead.
Basically, anyone who probably did speak up, they got murdered, but nothing was spoken about or written about that part.
Exactly.
Okay, keep playing because he's going to highlight these points. So keep playing. We're not even to the good part.
Spoken about a goat ate it.
We're just
Sorry.
Again, I'm not here to debate hadith and what this scholar said versus that scholar. That's not what we're looking at. I'm arguing to establish reasonable doubt in this modern day. Let's demand consistency.
Pause it. Okay.
I about missed that. This is only 3 seconds long.
Yeah, go ahead, play it.
Let's demand consistency.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So shrink it so I can see the names of the playlist because we can probably skip over some of these. But yeah, so notice he's just going to establish reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt in what? In Islam? In the Islamic sources? I mean, that's what he's doing. I'm establishing reasonable doubt in the most trusted, the most sacred collection of hadiths. I'm establishing reasonable doubt in one of the greatest scholars in Islam, Aiesha. I'm establishing reasonable doubt in all this just so I can use my 21st century judgment on morality to clear Muhammad of something he did, even though I said we can't do that anyway. Do you see the horns of the dilemma here? He's swinging from one horn to the other horn in trying to clear this because he knows, and this is the thing, Kenny, because we know you're listening. Kenny, it's a good thing that you believe that a 50-year-old man who has sex with a 9-year-old girl is a pervert. That's a good thing, dude, because that shows your moral compass has not been taken away from you. God has not truly removed it from you yet, okay? So that's actually a good thing. What we're trying to make you realize is, dude, well, let's play some more. Pull up the playlist, make it, so I can see it, because we can skip over some of this thing.
Okay. Let me pull it up here.
Let's see. So what we got? Modern time hearsay. Actually, play that one. Modern time. Prove it. Yeah, go ahead. No. Modern time hearsay.
Use the prophet.
No. The one that said modern time hearsay. The other one, the one before this. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah. Hearsay. Yeah. Play that one.
All right. There you go.
In modern times, courts do not convict people based on hearsay. Hearsay automatically brings about reasonable doubt in the minds of honest and reasonable people. And in modern times, people are considered innocent until proven guilty. If people in modern times,
pause it. So that means anything in the hadith he cannot use. Okay. Well, hearsay. Do you see what I'm saying? So even if he finds these magical mystical hadiths that say she was 19, which he won't, even if he finds any evidence, he can't bring up any evidence now to prove anything. And notice he's using a modern court. Remember, he said you can't do that. We cannot judge in history's past through the eyes of our 21st century lens. But here he is saying in a modern court, we have to do this. So again, remember he also said we need consistency. What I'm saying, he's being inconsistent in this argument. Why? Because he's going from one horn of a dilemma to another. And he cannot, you cannot square a circle. You cannot swing on one, you cannot stand on one horn of a dilemma and then swing over to the other horn of the dilemma and say, well, yeah, but none of that's true anyway. Do you see what I'm saying? Well, pull up the playlist. Let's see what we got here, because I want to get through some of this because there's some really good stuff here. Modern evidence is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, we can skip that one because not easy. Oh no, you can skip over that one. He just basically says, oh, he declares David would have been an unreasonable person. Okay, here we go. Yeah, Aiesha. Aiesha was very happy to Muhammad. Yeah, play that one.
What evidence is David Wood hiding? Let's talk about it. David Wood isn't telling you that Aiesha was very happily married to the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Okay.
So how does he know that if he doesn't use the hadith?
Exactly. Which is hearsay, which you can't use. Do you see what I'm saying?
No. He's biting his nose off to spite his face. I mean, that's
ouch, that hurt.
I mean, this guy gave up before he starts because he didn't take a class and he doesn't understand the concepts of debate. I mean, why he even attempted this was just a pure publicity stunt because he has no ability to debate, which is sad. Yeah, he has no talent. He gave up before he started. Is how I look at it. No studying.
In his after party on this, he was all proud of himself. Lewis or whatever his name is, Edward. He was like, "That's why I'm not afraid. See, I don't have to prove anything. I just got to establish reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt in what, dude? You know what I mean?
His ability to debate. Reasonable doubt. His ability to debate.
Well,
it's so sad.
Okay, pull up the playlist. Let's play another clip.
I just want to say something. How does a 9-year-old girl, how does it express displeasure with her husband who's 54 years old and voice that publicly? How did she go about doing that? When all around her, anybody that does say something negative about her 54-year-old husband dies or gets killed. And he's going to make this claim that, she was very happy. She was happily married to Muhammad. She was very happy in marriage. Are you kidding me?
Well, there's more to it than that. Think about this. Okay. Well, first of all, I mean, her whole family's in the cult, are high-level leaders in the cult. So what's she going to say? She can't go to her father because her father is Abu Bakr, right? I believe. Okay. Right. He ain't going nowhere. Okay. Now, Kenny should know this, especially now since he did his whole trans thing, where he knows, first of all, the girl at 9 years old is Tanner stage 2. And in the cult of transsexualism, okay, that's where they're attacking boys and girls and putting them on these puberty blockers. They don't know any better. Who are they going to complain to? Their parents and their doctors are all telling them, this is you. This is what it should be. So here you have, I mean, there's no social services in Saudi Arabia. She's not going to call, the protection agencies or whatever. There's no women's shelters to go to. There's no women's groups. There's none of this. So him sitting there saying, well, yeah, she was happily married. Yeah, Kenny, there are little boys and little girls.
He wasn't there. How does he know?
And no, that's another thing. He wasn't there. How does he know? Even accepting that at face value, that is not an argument, because history, even in this modern age, there are women who are being abused lifelong in abusive relationship, and you will say that they were happily married. Okay, all right. There are little boys and little girls who are being genitally mutilated, and they're saying they're 100% happy even into adult life. You know what I mean? And they have all the resources available for them to speak out and say something, and they don't. So that's not an argument. Anyway, pull it up. Let's hear some more of the Kenny logic and reason. Unbiased.
I think that point by Paul there was classic. You know, if he's gonna assert Aiesha was very happy with Muhammad, how do we know? Was he there?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the same argument that he's making. That's silly.
Wait. Oh, no sound.
No sound.
What?
No sound now. All of a sudden.
Okay. All right.
The joys of StreamYard.
That's all right. Okay.
And she was highly jealous of other wives. Now think about that. She was highly jealous of other wives. Does that sound like someone who's been abused?
Okay. Could you hear that?
Yeah. So she was highly jealous of other wives. Does that sound like someone who's been abused?
Again,
yeah.
He wasn't there. How does he know?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, not only that, but yeah, that would. I don't know. I mean, no, seriously. These are just foolish arguments. We'll pull it up because there's other ones. There's better ones that I want to get into that you're going to see. But let me see what we got here. Never spoke of any kind of abuse, defended Muhammad. So he just pretty much goes over the same thing. Never spoke. Well, actually, she did speak about abuse. She said that Muhammad hit her so hard that her chest turned green. So that's a lie. Defended Muhammad. Well, who should do? What is she gonna do? Who's she gonna? I mean, seriously, everybody around her who attacked Muhammad is dead. Okay, who's she gonna? Besides, they hated her anyway. Okay, the Shias did. They remember Ali went to war to kill her. You know what I mean? They fired arrows, okay, into her camel, okay, to kill her, and you know what I mean. So what's she gonna say? And besides, she's making money off of this. You know what I mean? She's selling the hadith. She's got a pension, a stipend. So what's she gonna say? And don't get me wrong, like the Declaration of Independence says, history has shown that people are perfectly willing to live their lot in life, instead of unthrowing their chains. All slaves don't revolt. They're very happy. Well, I shouldn't say they're very happy, but they're content in their slave labor. Okay, as long as they get fed and food and treated somewhat nicely, that's fine. Okay, even do you see what I'm saying? So to sit there and say, you know what I mean? That's just not an argument. Besides, like you said, how does she know? But here's the funny thing. Where was it? Play clip number 13. No, 13. Count, Kafir?
She was a very well-educated scholar of Islam and who could have easily spoken about abuse if, in fact, there was any. She was a strong, triumphant Muslim woman who had the capacity of character and the means to lash out at anyone who might have abused her. She had ample opportunity after the Prophet died.
Okay. Again, notice he says she's a scholar in Islam. Play that little clip again. Because he says a strong scholar in Islam, right? You don't have to play it.
He was a very well-educated scholar of Islam and who could have easily spoken about abuse if, in fact, there was any. If, in fact, there was any.
You can pause it. So Aiesha,
but he wasn't there.
Exactly. But more than that, she's a very well-educated scholar in Islam. Every single hadith, Aiesha, in her own words, said she was 6 and then 9. There might be one that says 7 and 10, but either way, you're still talking 10 or stage 2. Okay?
Yeah, that sounds like Kenny time traveled so he could see for himself.
Right.
So maybe he rode the Barak back in time to
well, why is he believing the strong scholar in Islam if she's too stupid to know when she was married and when she had sex for the first time with Muhammad? Do you see what I'm saying? Why would you Wait. So he discounts one hadith because it says that the guy that narrated it, he lived in Baghdad. I don't know why that makes a difference. But then later in life, he was elder in age, so he was losing his memory. Okay, so you discount that, but now you're discounting Aiesha and all the other hadiths because I don't know what, she was too young to remember this. Think about that. Think of the absurdity of this. Okay, pull up the playlist because we want to get it.
If he's discounting the guy that lived in Baghdad because of the distance that's involved in there, he's also discounting the other compilers of hadith literature, where none of them lived in Mecca. They're all from.
Right. Well, not only that, but he's discounting everything. But let's pull up the playlist because we want to get into some other stuff. So I want to get into his argumentation. Remember, what is his argument? Okay. Must provide evidence. Okay. He's not arguing one scholar or the other. He's let's see here. With clip 15 I want to go to, I think. Aiesha, strong scholar. Okay. Yeah. So now we got to get to his evidence, his proof, his evidence. Not remember, he's not just going on opinion here. So I want you to pay attention to this. So let's go with clip 15. 015. Okay, to you, Kafir. Are you there? Did I lose you? Did I lose connection?
No, you didn't.
No.
Did we lose Eric?
No, because the video wouldn't be up.
Well, he could be frozen.
Well, he could be.
There.
Oh, Eric's.
Oh, okay.
He's up. Oh. Okay.
All right. So life happens.
Yes.
So this is humorous. I mean, this guy is making arguments about her being treated nicely. He's arguing that she was jealous. That all this information requires that he had to be there.
All right. Sorry, folks.
Everything okay, brother?
Yeah. My daughter finally told my grandson that Alpha died, and he is.
Oh boy.
Yeah, he's not taking it very well, so I got to give her a call. So what I'm going to do is, Rad. Okay, do you have this? Okay, do you have the? Can you share your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me do that. Let me stop my screen share here, and then I'll share your screen, and you can just walk everybody through it. And I'll make a call, and then I'll come back.
All right, give me a moment here.
All right.
Present. Actually, let me pull it up. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay. Hold on. Share screen. That's what I want. Share audio. You guys see it?
Yes. Okay. Let me go full screen, and then you play with. Go ahead and play a clip and see if we get sound.
All right. What did I say I wanted? 15. Okay.
You know, while it is true
Okay.
that many Muslim scholars have accepted.
You hear it?
Yep. Okay. You're good. All right. Thank
cool.
you. I'll be back in a couple minutes.
All right. Cool.
Bye.
All right. So again, now we're going to get into where he offers his arguments, right? So let me play this, and this is what he says. Okay. All right. Here we go.
You know, while it is true that many Muslim scholars have accepted the tradition that Aiesha was 9 years old when the marriage was consummated, others believe that she was older. And both sides have strong arguments based on various hadiths to justify their theories.
Okay.
Honest people.
Notice he says that they have strong arguments based on various hadiths. So, okay. All right. Let's find out what these hadiths are. Okay. But here he makes the argument. This is kind of funny. Let me go over this real quick because this is pretty much his argument. Okay. So like Paul and everybody's been pointing out. How do you know? Let's go with clip 17.
Please, excuse me. What it boils down to is no one knows for sure. No Muslim truly knows what her age was. No non-Muslim knows what her age was. Let's face it. We weren't there. Muslims, you weren't there. David Woods wasn't there. No one knows. New World Encyclopedia
Okay, so no one was there. Aiesha was there, and Aiesha, who is a strong scholar in Islam, what do you call her? Well-educated scholar in Islam. She was there, and she said she was 9 years old. Okay, but but Kenny's idea. I mean, I don't know. I guess he wants to see the child porn. Okay. And that's the only way he would believe it is if somehow Muslims would have invented the video camera and he could see the child porn live. Okay, preferably live stream, and then he would say, "Yeah, that really did happen." Okay. Anybody want to comment on anything so far?
It's just sad, no matter.
Well,
I'd
now
like to make a comment. Can I make
Sure.
a comment?
Sure, go ahead.
I think we're talking apples and oranges here because I bet in his brain he is winning because
Oh, he is.
we're not seeing. I mean, I don't see it. His logic, it makes total sense to him.
Oh, it does. Like you said in one clip which we didn't play, he said it's hard to argue with people who are irrational and unreasonable. Amir, when he says
Second Thessalonians 2 verses 9 to 12. God sends them a strong delusion that they should believe the lie, and that's exactly what he's done to Kenny.
Thanks,
okay,
Ed.
exactly. Well, not only well, there's other verses I was thinking too, where it says they've been handed over to their own devices. You know, they a spirit of deceit. You know, this sort of thing. But yeah, he is gone. He actually believes he won this debate. He believes he won it so well that he has to re-debate the same topic, same person, do it all over again a year later. Seriously. So Kenny, if you're listening, I hope you come up with better arguments. But now we're going to get into his sources. Okay. So do you see how he's kind of set the field? Like I said, the argument from the horns of dilemma. One horn, okay, you can't believe the sources. You know what I mean? He's just bounced back. Other horn, you can't judge by your 21st century lens. Then he swings back to the other horn. Well, you know, it was perfectly fine in that day and age to swings back, you know, and says, oh no, well, we can only judge by our 21st century lens, and if I provide reasonable doubt, then he's not guilty. You see how he's just going back and forth, okay? Back and forth. And he did nothing wrong. Oh, wait a second. You know what I'm saying? Okay, she had to be older. I'm not going to I'm not going to defend any scholarly position, blah, blah, blah. But let's go to his sources now. And I think this is where it gets really, really funny. So let's go to his sources, okay? His first source, clip 18. Here we go.
Notice
New
that
World
he's at
Encyclopedia
clip
addresses
18,
this marriage.
first source. We're at clip 18, and he's giving his first source. Sorry.
New World Encyclopedia addresses this.
It was working. Did it turn on? It's not playing. Uh-oh.
Oh, my bad. I muted myself. I was making commentary here. Okay, so let's look at his first source here. Okay. Remember, he said strong hadith, right? Where he said they make strong arguments based on various hadiths, right? The scholars. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
You guys hear me? Okay. So
Yeah.
so remember, so that was one of his criteria. So here we go.
New World Encyclopedia addresses this marriage.
What? What source?
New World Encyclopedia addresses this marriage.
What is that a hadith? Is that Tabari? Is that any Islamic source whatsoever? No, it's New World Encyclopedia, and this is what he starts off with. Here we go.
New World Encyclopedia addresses this marriage, and let's think about what's being said. They have no reason to, they're not Muslims, obviously. So they state the age of Aiesha at marriage is an extremely contentious one. The age of Aiesha at marriage is an extremely contentious one. Contentious amongst whom? Muslims.
Exactly.
The Muslims debate about it.
No, it's
On the-
not.
Is that contentious to whom?
That's
It's
well.
contentious. Well, wait, it's contentious to 21st century Westernized Muslims who look back at it and say, no, reverted Muslims, I should say, who look back and say, no, that's disgusting, so it clearly cannot be. That's the only people it's contentious to. It's not contentious to, serious believing Muslims, okay, who are always born that way, raised that way, know the difference. It's only contentious to people like Kenny, okay? Not contentious to anybody else.
He said something interesting. He said that encyclopedia was not written by Muslims. How does he know that? I mean, that's an interesting question. They could be. That entry could have been written by Muslims.
It actually is. You're right. It actually could be.
Yeah.
It actually more likely is written by Muslims. That part of it.
But either way, this is
they
his
do
source.
have the
this
citations.
This is what he opens up with. But remember, he said there are hadiths that these scholars can go by. So let's continue on. Here we go.
About it. On the other hand, they say there are several hadiths that would state that.
Now there's an echo, Eric. I think you're gonna mute yourself. Okay.
Right.
There was an echo. Someone's echoing. Okay, here we go.
Not hearing him. No video. No sound for the video.
You guys aren't hearing me?
I'm not hearing the video.
Yeah.
Anybody else have problems?
It's not
Yeah, I
running.
can't hear the video.
It's frozen.
Don't hear the video.
Well, I was just playing it.
Okay, can you guys? Okay, Ed, could you hear the video?
No.
No.
Not.
All right, hold on. Let me reshare it. Hold on. Maybe there's a problem. Hold on.
Then maybe some with my end. Sorry.
Actually, I think you're sharing your screen. Hold on. Let me see.
I did. Yeah. There. Now go ahead.
No, now it's my screen.
Now it's your screen.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. See, you screwed it up, not me.
The age of Aiesha at marriage is an extremely contentious one. Contentious amongst whom?
Yeah,
Muslims. The Muslims debate about it. On the other hand, they say there are several hadiths that would state that that were narrated by Aiesha herself, which claimed that she was 6 or 7 years old, rather, when engaged, and 9 when the marriage was consummated. But they state, on the other hand, there's evidence from early Muslim chroniclers like Ibn Ishaq that indicates, and others.
Does Ibn Ishaq actually say?
It's
she's
Ibn
like the old-
Ishaq. And
Yeah,
Ibn
well-
Ishaq, I think, was actually Shia too. I think he's considered a Shia commentator in a lot of ways. Even though, like, maybe Sunnis might use him, but it's a very, very early source. I don't even know if.
Okay, to say that
it's
Ibn.
traditional.
Okay, what did he say about Ibn Ishaq? He said that Ibn
He said,
Ishaq.
well, no, he didn't say this. The World Encyclopedia, they said that that there's some Ibn Ishaq or Ishaq says that Aiesha was older than 9.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, he's right. You're right.
It's Ibn Ishaq, but the thing is, it's actually Isaac. Ishaq is Isaac, or
Right.
Yitzhak in Hebrew. So just to let you know, because some people might know, it's not. It is sh, but it's not pronounced that way. It's Ishaq.
Okay.
No, hold on. Okay, right
Well, we
here.
looked this up last year.
Yeah. Let's see. The bosom 29. I'm wrong. Do my evidence. Slap in the face of other women. Here we are. Page 792. Reliance of the Traveler, or not Reliance of the Traveler. Ibn Ishaq. It says he married Aiesha in Mecca when she was a child of 7 and lived with her in Medina when she was 9 or 10. That's what Ibn Ishaq says. He's absolutely right. Ibn Ishaq doesn't say she's 9. Ibn Ishaq says she was
9 or 10.
10.
Right. Again,
She's
still
high.
still 10 or stage 2. But either way, but notice he does not quote that. He quotes the World Encyclopedia. But let's rewind it because he's alluding that she's older. He's being very deceptive. Okay.
But they state, on the other hand, there's evidence from early Muslim chroniclers like Ibn Ishaq that indicates, and others, they say, that Aiesha may have been 12 to 14 years old.
Does it say
Pause it. No. I just read it. If Ibn Ishaq, hold on just a second. If Ibn Ishaq said that she was 12 or 14, he needs to cite which page number I can go to in this book, in Ibn Ishaq's Sirah, where it says that she was 12 or 14. If not, he's lying about this. Even Ishaq says that she was 9 or 10.
All right, somebody's eating and it doesn't have their mic muted. Please,
It's Paul and Ed, and I'm kidding. They don't, here, hold on. I can.
No.
I'm sorry. I got it.
They're already muted. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So wait. The World Encyclopedia, that's his source, says that Ibn Ishaq, right? Ibn Isaac.
That's right. Ibn Ishaq. That's correct. You said
Ibn
it right.
Ishaq. Okay. Ibn Ishaq. Okay. Says that Aiesha was 12 or 14 years age. We just cited, Kenny, from the translation. This is what's called a primary source. Okay. The translation of a primary source of Ibn Ishaq, where it actually says the opposite. It says 9 or 10. And again, 9 and 10 is Tanner stage 2, not Tanner stage 3, which would be relatively 12 or 14. Okay? Either way, Kenny, you just got burned on this source that you quoted. But let's continue on. Okay.
Just past the age of puberty, or perhaps even older, they say. Some Muslim scholars.
Perhaps even older, they say. Hold on.
Point to other traditions.
Wait, hold on. They say, who's the they? Is it World Encyclopedia, or is there another they in this? I don't know, but let's continue.
Scholars point to other traditions, they say, that conflict with those attributed to hadith narrated by Aiesha on this matter. So let's look at some of those examples of these people.
Wait, hold on. Did I just do something? Okay. All right, hold on. Let me.
New World Encyclopedia, 12 to 14 years old, just past the age of puberty, or perhaps even older, they say. Some Muslim scholars point to other traditions, they say, that conflict with those attributed to hadith narrated by Aiesha on this matter.
Okay, so
let's look at some of the.
Wait, so let's look at some of these sources. Well, actually, he says that. Let's look at the sources here, right? Okay. Are you guys ready for this? Anybody want to comment so far?
There sure are a lot of contradictions going on here.
Exactly. Okay, here we go. Listen to these sources. I want you to pay close attention to this one. Okay.
For those examples of these people. So an article titled "Proof that Aiesha was 15 years old when married to the Prophet, peace be upon him," published February 2019 by Dr.
Wait. Published when? Was it published in 700 AD? No. Was it published in 800, 900 AD? No. It was published when? During modern times, using modern biases, okay, to go look back through the lens of history to rejudge Muhammad and find him not guilty by some dude. But let's listen on. Let's listen.
Sheikh Dr. Ridwan Ibn Salim, and he says, and I quote, "Although the widely cited hadith states that Aiesha was 9 years old when her marriage to the Prophet, peace be upon him, was consummated, this is contradicted by strong historical evidence. Reports of Aiesha's age and works by such authorities as Nawawi, Asqalani, Ibn Kathir, all
that.
Yeah, we looked this up last year. None of this is true.
Right. And okay, so he's looking at strong historical evidence.
Uh-huh.
What is okay. It's okay. Okay. What in the flippin' world is your criteria for historical evidence? Do you even know or understand how historical facts are right?
Yeah. Didn't you see he was pointing right at it?
Did we point to Ed? I didn't hear that.
I said, yeah. Didn't you see he was pointing right at it right before he started saying that it was evidence?
Okay. But when he starts talking about historical evidence, there is no historical evidence for Muhammad. When we start looking, okay, I guess that's a completely different.
Yeah, you're right. There isn't.
They just pander you and say there's historical evidence for it. No, there is not.
Wait, it gets better. It gets better, dude. If you just let me again, let Kenny speak. But hold on. He's quoting an article written in 2019 by some dude. We don't know who it is, but okay. Quoting an article written in 2019 that says strong historical evidence by Isqalani, al-Tabari. Well, let's rewind it. Let's find out his sources. We actually looked this up last year, and well, he doesn't. Okay.
By such authorities as Nawawi, Asqalani, Ibn Kathir. All placed her in her late teens at the time.
All placed her in her late teens.
No.
That is wrong. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, all of this, remember, he's quoting from an article written by this dude in 2019 who says these things. Kenny doesn't look these things up. Kenny doesn't sit there and say, wait, Ashkelani, Tabari, and whoever, da, da, da. We look this stuff up. We look up the primary sources that this guy is loosely, referencing. He's not quoting. He's not citing. He's just referencing to. But hold on. Listen to this. Listen to the footnote. He actually says in there about a footnote. I'm like, okay, he's going to quote the footnote, which would be the sources, right? Right? Hold on.
He has a footnote at the bottom of that article, and he states,
wait, footnote, right? Aren't you all thinking now we're going to get the sources? Now we're going to get the primary sources that this guy is quoting from Ashkelani, Tabari, and the other dude, right? Wouldn't you think that? Am I wrong? I mean, seriously, this is what you think, right?
You would think.
Listen to this.
This article is not an apologetic response, but a sincerely held opinion after investigating the issue. And ultimately, he says, this is my opinion based on reading of historical evidence, and it's the job of the student of Islamic tradition to investigate to the best of his or her ability.
Something Kenny clearly did not do. So it's not an apologetic response. One, it's only his opinion. Two, the guy cites sources that doesn't cite sources, references sources that say the opposite of what he says. Okay? I mean, no, complete, total fabrication. Kenny reads it, it agrees with my opinion, so therefore it must be true. But does it investigate this? Ashkelani, remember we looked this up last year. I think it was we had to have someone come in, either John or Adam come in to give us the source, because it's all in Arabic. We definitely know Al-Tabari doesn't state that. Remember, I had to go through my collection of Al-Tabari and actually photocopy the pages and show it to people. Yeah, none of this, what he just said of the source is true. But this is the level of Kenny's scholarship. Kenny, if you're listening, if you're reading something, okay, fine. Let me give an example. Okay, Dr. Eric DeCaffer Smith, from your middle school students, if you were to ask them to do a report on something, would you accept Wikipedia as the source?
No.
Would anybody accept Wikipedia as the source?
Absolutely
No.
not.
What you do is how you can use Wikipedia is you look at Wikipedia and you see what Wikipedia is citing.
Right.
And that's
exactly.
Okay. You go to the citations, but you would never use Wikipedia as a source.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right. This is where it can be used as a means to identify
a launching ground,
the source itself.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the place where you start to say, okay, let me check this out. This looks interesting. Let me see these sources, because I love Wikipedia and they're pretty good on a lot of stuff. Other stuff, not so much. But you know what I mean? No, so I'm not bashing Wikipedia. But what he is doing, he is using this tertiary source. It's not even a primary source. Okay? I mean, a secondary source. It's a total tertiary source that actually did not cite any source. Did not cite any source, just made a brief reference to it, and then just says it's his opinion. You know what I mean? And that's
Wikipedia, it. And Wikipedia even says that it's not a reliable source.
Exactly. So let's continue on here.
So a non-Muslim, Leslie Hazelton, in her books, The First Muslim and After the Prophet, and I can give...
Wait. I'm sorry. Another source he's citing? Okay, so now we're getting to Ashkelani. Now we're getting to Al-Tabari. Now we're getting to Ibn Ishaq. Now we're getting to, the Hadith. Now we're getting to stuff, right? Okay, so he's going to cite another source, right? He's going to back up what he says.
And After the Prophet, and I can give the Muslim and After the Prophet. And
Wait, hold on.
So a non-Muslim, Leslie Hazelton, in her books, The First Muslim.
Wait, a non-Muslim Leslie Hazelton? Actually, After the Prophet's a very good book. It's actually written from the Shia perspective. Very good, excellent book. But I do highly recommend it. But again, I would not cite that as a primary source. Anyway, here we go.
And After the Prophet, and I can give the page numbers if need.
But again, not Ashkelani, not Al-Tabari, not Ibn Ishaq, not anyone, but
But she says Aiesha maintained, this is a quote, Aiesha maintained she was 6 years old when she was engaged and 9 when the marriage was consummated and
what? Okay.
Celebrated. But more restrained reports have her age 9 when she was betrothed and 12 when she was actually married.
What are these restrained reports? So this woman who wrote the book After the Problem, very good book. Again, I highly recommend it. Okay. Cites where Aiesha herself said that she was 6 and 9. Okay. Why do I want to sing that? Why is that song, that stupid song, from that pedophile going through my 88 nothing but a number? Anyway, that's beside the point. Anyway, she actually says, okay, that Aiesha herself said she was 6 and 9. Okay. But then she says, okay, there are other more restrained reports. Well, what are these reports? This is the part where he should have done his due diligence and looked it up. And again, he just takes at face value anything that supports his bias, anything that confirms his bias. Okay.
Which makes sense, she says, since custom dictated that girls be married at puberty.
Wait. Custom dictates in Islam that girls be married in puberty? Hold on, don't jump in, Dr. Smith, just yet.
Dr. Rezat Halimez in Fountain Magazine says, and I quote,
"Oh, in Fountain Magazine. Now we're going to Fountain Magazine. That's a secure Islamic source right there.
She was at least 17 or 18 when she
At least 17 or 18. What source is this? Is Fountain Magazine quoting?
married the Prophet in Medina. Jana
No reference? Wait, Fountain Magazine.
I know what the Fountain Magazine is. I actually know
What
what
is it?
It's I think it's Fethullah Gulen's publication. Do you know who Fethullah Gulen is with the whole Erdogan in Turkey?
No way.
Fethullah Gulen believes that modern science and Islam work together. So Fountain is publishing from that.
He's the number 19 guy, right?
What's number 19?
The one that the number 19, the miracles of 19 in the Quran. He's the heretic.
Probably.
Isn't he got killed? Or
No. Fethullah Gulen lives in Pennsylvania. He lives in the Poconos. He's a Turkish. They were saying that he did a coup, that his team did a coup. I don't believe this, but they said that the Turkish government said that he did a coup. I think it was an inside job personally, but you know.
But isn't he the follower of somebody else who was killed because of heretic? Because they want, the only way he could make this miracle of 19 work in the Quran is if you took out the last 2 ayahs of Surah 9. You know what I'm talking about? He's another Turkish guy. He actually did a Quran where he took out the last 2 surahs of chapter 9 to make his goofy miracle of 19 work. You know what I'm talking about?
That was Shabir Ali did that.
Shabir Ali. I don't know this person.
No, Shabir Ali. Shabir Ali got slammed for this because he was using the miracle 19. I'll have to look him up later. But no, when I show you this guy, you'd be like, really? But no, Shabir Ali used the article, or used that number 19 thing, but he reworked it somehow. It was kind of funny because he said, no, I'm not going by this guy. But either way, Fountain Magazine, I thought it was some kind of like modern magazine, but either way, fine. He's quoting from Fountain Magazine.
It would be modern because that's what Fethullah Gulen's argument is, or Hoja Effendi's argument is, that science and Islam can coexist. So yeah, this would not work. This idea that Aiesha, was 9 years old would not work for Fethullah Gulen.
Gulen uses Islamization of knowledge. So he would back up the Muslim Brotherhood. No problem backing up their stand on this Islamization of knowledge. So this is where it gets humorous. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Well, either way, the source he's cited here does not quote their sources to say that she was 17 or 18. Let's continue on.
One thing I want to point out here, again, is the hypocrisy. I know this is a surprise, but we've heard this man time and time again call into question the veracity of the New Testament. He's saying, "Oh, it's much too late. You have all these people coming in, and when would we have the earliest copies? When do we have? How can you prove that the New Testament, it wasn't changed over time? Yada 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 yada." But at the same time, when you look at the earliest sources from this hadith literature, he's not using those. No. What he's running to are commentaries that people wrote centuries, literally half a millennia after the death of Muhammad. And he's using that to try to justify, well, we don't know, or there's disagreement among scholarships. he's not being consistent. If you're going to make the same application, if you're going to make one application for the Bible, but you're not willing to make that same application for your own Islamic literature, we call people like that hypocrites for a reason. Go ahead.
What I hate to do, more than anything else is when somebody comes up and says that, and we have manuscript evidence to totally refute that, and he knows it, and he's ignoring it, which means he's willingly lying. He is lying, and he knows he's lying, and everybody else knows he's lying. You see, Kenny, buddy, you're lying, and we know it, and we can prove it, and we have the evidence. We have the manuscripts. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have all of it. The Dead Sea Scrolls is the New Testament in the Old Testament, buddy. So, because the Dead Sea Scrolls line up with the gospel of Jesus Christ, because, I mean, see, this is how you know people haven't read the Bible.
Well, his position is actually worse than everything you said, because his position is that he is relying on modern people that he is quoting that do not cite their sources, but actually just kind of reference or allude to sources. Actually, remember he said it's their opinion, blah blah blah, right? Even though his argument, remember, what did we play? Okay, remember, what did we play? His argument, he's not going to rely on opinion. He's not going to rely on this. He's not, you know what I'm saying? But now he's relying on opinion. Okay.
Well,
and he's not citing any sources. Okay?
I know that he grew up in a Christian home. I know that he grew up in a Christian home before he changed his Facebook page. I saw pictures of him with his mother, and there were crosses all over the walls, everything. So I know he was raised in a Christian home for sure.
Well, he admits. I think he admits that. But you got to remember, though, if I remember how his life story goes, him and his brother were put in like a boys' home or something when he was something like that. I don't want to get. I don't care. I mean, it's just.
Well, no. His version of the event of the events is that his mom and dad abandoned him on a street corner somewhere, and then him and his brother got put into a boys' home. Again, that's tragic. That's sad. But again, that's Kenny's version. So we don't know the truth on that. But his father did just pass away. So I guess he made amends with his dad. I don't know.
It's always good to do that. I can actually empathize with that, because my dad and I were both estranged for 10, 12 years, and and go and make amends with him is it's very edifying.
Right.
So
that's good. But
yeah. Okay.
But let's continue on. Do we have a hadith? Do we have an actual quote from Tabari, from any of these people he's making reference to? No, we don't. We just have his modern, people saying stuff that they say. It's their opinion. It's not apologetic.
Can I show something here real quick?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So he's talking about Ascalani, and says Ascalani says that she was 12 to 14 years old. This is not true.
What?
I know. Here's what Ascalani says. Whoops, wrong. What the heck is that? That's not the right one. Come on.
We're professionals here.
Yeah, I got this. Hold on, just one more. Bring it up. Present, screen share, window. There it is. Okay, because while you were talking, this is what I was looking for this. Okay, so we look for here's what Ascalani says. To say with certainty that she was not yet at the age of puberty is questionable. Okay, to say with certainty is that she was not at puberty is questionable, though it might possibly be so. This is because Aiesha was 14 years old at the time of the Battle of Khaybar. Now, folks, remember the Battle of Khaybar is in 628, 629. This is like 3 years before his death. And if we go back to this other slide, can I do this or not? If we go back to this other slide, this is the point I was going to make. Can you see that? You cannot see that. Why? Because I'm a loser. Let me get this other one back up here. follow the timeline here. Okay, she was 14 years old at the time of the Battle of Khaybar. Khaybar is 629. So let's go back up here and look at this hadith by Sahih Muslim. It says here that he was taken to his house as a bride when she was 9. And this is notice this is narrated by Aiesha. This is narrated by Aiesha. That she was 9 and her dolls were with her. Okay. And when he died, she was 18 years old. So that means that she was 18 years old in 632. So you subtract 9 from that, it gets you back to what? 623. So she was, if the timeline here works, but if you look at what Ashkelani says, he says that she was 14 at the Battle of Khaybar, which means that she was 9 when Muhammad married her. And that is consistent with Muslim, what Muslim says. That is consistent with what Bukhari says. That is consistent with Al-Nasi says. That is consistent with Sunan Ibn Majah. This is consistent with what all the hadith compilers say. What is not consistent is what his opinion is.
Yeah, pull it up, Ken. I want to read the whole thing. Pull it up here.
Which one?
The one from Ashkenazi or whatever his name is.
Ashkelani. I got to come back.
Ashkelani.
Hold on. Let me come back up here. Hold on. Present. Ashkelani. Back up here. There we go. All right. Let me make this big so everybody can read it.
Okay. To say with certainty that she was not yet at the age of puberty is questionable. To say with certainty, the certainty part is questionable. To say, okay, well, that's in brackets. We know, though it might be though it might possibly be so. This because Aiesha Ra was 14 years old girl at the time of the Battle of Khaybar, either exactly 14 years old or having just passed the 14th year or approaching it. Okay, whatever. As for her age at the time of the battle took, she had
30, that's 630. The Tabuk is 630. I looked it up.
Okay, she had then reached the age of puberty. Therefore, the strongest view is that of those who said it was at Khaybar, i.e., when she was not yet at the age of puberty, and made reconciliation between the apparent contradictory rulings of the permissibility of dolls. Oh, this isn't no. Okay, whoa. This has nothing to do with the consummation of the marriage. It has to do with the playing of the dolls. This is their problem.
And the reason why they here.
Yeah.
Bring up the other one. Hold on.
Yeah.
This is Tabari. Sahih. Let's see, Tabari. Let me bring this one back up so we can all.
No, this is about playing at dolls, not about having sex.
No, I know, but we're talking about whether she was pre-pubescent. This is what Ashkelani is saying here, because he gets this from Al-Tabari. Al-Tabari, in his commentary on this, says that when let's see, apostle used to enter the dwelling place, hide themselves. Let's see, I used to play with dolls in the presence of the prophet. Okay, now Tabari, making a commentary on what Bukhari says the playing with dolls and similar images forbidden, but was allowed for Aiesha at the time, as she was a little girl not yet reached the age of puberty. So
yeah, that's the problem.
Bukhari confirming what Bukhari was saying and actually explaining why it's important to understand why she was allowed to play with dolls. She was allowed to play with dolls. Why? Because she's not entered puberty. She had not entered puberty because yet when she's living with Muhammad.
You're okay. No, you're misunderstanding what Ashkelani is. Well, the problem, the dilemma that Ashkelani is facing. It's not that he had sex with her when she was 9 years of age. It's the problem that if she was 14 years of age and still playing it with dolls, that's the problem. That's the problem.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
So
yeah.
therefore, no. So when he pull it up again, because if you notice when he had at the end.
Giant pain in the butt to pull it up. Give me a second.
No, pull it up again. Look at his conclusion.
Pull it up. Give me a second here.
Okay.
Present. Clear screen. Let's see. There we are. Okay. Share. Boom. Okay.
Look at what it says at the end. Okay. Therefore, the strongest view is that of those who said it was at Kaibar, i.e., when she was not yet at the age of puberty, it's talking about when she was playing with dolls. Not about having sex. This has nothing to do with having sex. This has to do with playing with dolls.
Yeah, but
okay? So no, he's not. He's not. In other words, he's not concerned that Muhammad is banging a 9-year-old. He's concerned with when he was banging the 9-year-old. Was she playing with dolls? Then it's okay. She can play with dolls. That has nothing to do with having sex with the 9-year-old. Okay. The concern is the focus is the playing with dolls. That's what I'm saying.
But
so this has nothing to do.
But
nothing to do with it.
Something else that this just something else just blows my mind here. Okay, so
You know what blows my mind? You're not letting us women, speak up. Honestly, how come all the male scholars are giving their opinion? Where are the female scholars? Where are the female Islamic scholar sources?
You can't have them because they have half a brain.
Right. But they know women go through that menses. Men don't.
If
So
I only had a brain.
They shouldn't be.
Okay, but here's the point that I was going to make about that. Okay, so he's saying that she was playing with dolls at the Battle of Kaibar, which was when 629. 629, she's 14 years old, and she still has not reached puberty. That means for 5 years. For 5 years.
That's worse.
I know. Think about that. For 5 years, Muhammad is crawling upon this pre-pubescent little girl.
Wait,
sick, man.
Hold on. Pull that quote up again. No, because no, you guys are all missing it. Okay, and I can't put it in words. It's the playing with dolls that's a problem. Okay, when she was not yet at the age of puberty and made reconciliation between the apparent contradictory ruling of the permissibility of dolls, in particular, the prohibition of images in general. Wait. So hold on a second. Okay. It was 14 years at the time of the Battle of Kaibar, either exactly 14 or having just passed her 14th year or approaching it. So are you saying that when Aiesha was playing with dolls, she was 14 years of age? Well, then that's a very bad thing. That's a horrendous thing, according to this man. Not having sex with a prepubescent girl is a bad thing, but the fact that Muhammad was allowing her to play with dolls at the age of 14, that's the worst thing. That's what
Hey, brother, you're making a huge mistake. We all have, people who are older in their 30s and 40s have toys. They have Star Wars dolls that they play with right now.
You're
Well, Isa, she's talking about going against their culture at the time.
Wait, no, Isa, let me rebuke you. Star Wars toys are not dolls. They're action.
Oh, they're action figures, yes.
Action figures, yeah.
Or you might have like a Chewbacca furry one.
G.I. Joe, Grip. Oh, yeah, that's an action figure and not a doll.
My Little Pony, though, they have My Little Pony dolls, and older guys like to play with them,
Yeah, we call them certain names. I'm just saying, which we cannot say here, and rightfully so. But either way, but no, that's no. So he's using this source to argue against the age of consummation, when that's not the point of this. That's not the point of the argument. The argument is what this man is making, Ashkenani is making, is how old was she when she was still playing with dolls? That's the point. If she was still playing with dolls at the age of 14, that's a huge problem. If he was having sex with her when she was 9 years old, no big deal. That's why she has to be 9 years old when she was playing with dolls.
Also keep in mind that this was a source that he had cited as a form of refutation that she was prepubescent.
Exactly. What does it say that?
It's actually
exactly
the opposite of what.
Exactly. Okay, let's pull it up because I want to finish up with some other point because we're running late. Well, we're at 5:20 here. So where do we leave off here? So, Well, let me pull up my thing here. So sources not even okay. Just to pick. Remember, let me continue on with this because this is kind of long. But yeah, okay, here we go.
The life of Aiesha, mother of believers, page 8 says she was most likely 10 when engaged and wed probably around 14 or 15 when consummated.
Most likely, probably. Any sources to back that up? Just opinion.
He has the books on his desk because he keeps.
Oh, he's got his book kind of it. Oh yeah.
Well, the book's on my desk and the articles that I have here, but he doesn't ever cite original source. He doesn't go back to primary, which is considered to be what he considered to be primary source. You notice that he never does that. I haven't heard him once.
Well, maybe he will, Kaffir. Maybe he will. Well, let's listen.
Muhammad, a short introduction by Dr. Jonathan Brown on page 76.
Wait. By Jonathan Brown. Oh, this is good. Listen to this. By Jonathan Brown. Page 6. And this is something I've noticed with these guys. They only read like the first 5 pages. You know what I mean? Okay, anyway, here we go.
77 says that she was between 9 or 10 when consummated.
9 or 10. Okay. Thanks for quoting Jonathan Brown, who agrees with the Islamic position. Because he does. There's actually a video. I was going to upload it, but there's videos where he's doing a conference. And by the way, Jonathan Brown is considered, he is considered one of the foremost modern day Islamic scholars in conservative Sunni Islam, just to let you know. But there is a video where he's giving a lecture and they're asking him about the age of Aiesha. They're like, well, what about the other sources, that say she was older? And he literally says, what sources? There are none. Okay. And
say that last part one more time, Brad. Say that
Jonathan Brown is giving a lecture.
Right.
Dr. Jonathan Brown is giving a lecture. And the Muslims, they ask him, what about the other sources that say she was actually older, 14 or even 18?
Right.
And he responds, he says, what sources?
Right. Okay.
There are none. And he actually makes the argument he actually makes the valid argument. Yes, she was 9 years old. There's nothing to be ashamed about that. There's nothing wrong with that. He actually makes that valid argument. I think that's the valid argument, is that yes, because he is a perfect example of mankind. He is the moral example. Everything he does is morally perfect. Okay. So yes, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's the only valid argument, but let's continue.
To me, there's something wrong with
The Life
it.
of Muhammad by Haikal, a book that I've had since.
I'm sorry, Lisa, what'd you say?
I said, to me, there's something wrong with it.
Well, exactly. But again, not because you don't believe he's the perfect example of mankind. In other words, if you were to tell me something Jesus did, okay, that's in the New Testament and it's legit, and you say, well, I disagree with that, I would have to say, no, he's the perfect moral example. I should be following that example. You know what I mean? So in the same way, if you're going to be a true believer with Muhammad, you have to accept this. Okay. But let's continue on.
Since the day I took Shahada almost 30 years ago, on page 139 says that she was 11 years old when the marriage was consummated. And in a recent article...
okay, does he quote the source that this other person is citing? No.
Aiesha was 19, not 9 by Faz.
19 now? Now we're going to 19 by another article written by someone? Again, no sources.
Rahman published December 28th, just last month.
Just last month? Whoa, we're getting deep here, people. Deep.
2021, he says, and I quote, as all biographers of the Prophet agree that he consummated his marriage with Aiesha in the second year after Hijrah, it can be conclusively said that she was 19 at the time and not 9 as alleged in the aforementioned hadiths. And there are many other articles.
Conclusively, how?
Been breaking his mother's heart for 30 years.
Okay.
Right.
Here's one thing I wanted to point out. When we look at Al-Tabari, whose comments on al-Bukhari's hadith, when Tabari comments on that, and I brought this up before on this show, when he says that there's a hadith that is rated Sahih, there is a 99 to 100% chance that hadith is authentic. If the hadith is rated Hassan, there's an 85 to 98% chance that it is authentic. If it is rated Daif, there is a 45, I think we said it's a 45% to 85% that it is authentic. So these sources that David Wood cited are all Sahih sources from Bukhari. So when you start questioning these sources, what you're doing is you're questioning what people consider to be 100%, if not 100%, 99% authentic. So what you're basically doing is you're turning all of the scholarship, prior Islamic scholarship, on its head because you don't like the conclusion. And he does it throughout the entire debate. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, he's creating reasonable doubt. But let's get through more of this because there's some great clips I want to get to. And I also want to play David Wood's rebuttal. We can play that fully through because that is just brilliant, in my opinion. But here we go.
Books that I can mention. As a matter of fact, the reason I have these books on my table right here is because preparing for this debate, I've gone through all 10 of these books, and all 10 of these books have a different age.
Oh,
I'm going to repeat. These are Muslim books, some Muslim and non-Muslim scholars, and they all have her at a different age.
Stop it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, all those books have her at a different age.
So what?
But all of the hadith have her at the same age. That's the problem.
Exactly.
All these people commenting on this as, oh, she was 12, she was 14, oh, she was 18, no, 19. But all of the hadith, the Sahih hadith say that she was 9.
Because they are judging the most perfect moral man through the lens of 20 or 21st century West.
No, they're just simply saying he's a pervert. That's what it comes down to.
Well, no.
And
Not if she was of legal age. Nothing wrong with that. I'm sorry. Just saying. But no, seriously. This is no. He is doing, again, he is using his tertiary sources to defend this position, okay, based on the thing that he says you cannot do, which is judge through the mind of a 20 or 21st century moral lens, looking back in history and providing no proof. So he's not consistent. He's already violated his argument, okay? Do you see what I'm saying? This is going totally past you guys, okay? Remember, he started out saying that David Wood is committing the fallacy of judging of judging through the lens of modern man people in history.
Presentism.
Presentism.
You use modern values to prejudge or to judge higher cultures. Yeah,
but he is using people. He is quoting people, okay, who are now redefining based on their modernism, based on their prejudgment that yes, this is clearly wrong, so therefore we've got to bump up the age a bit. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? Okay, yeah. So in other words, he's using the argument that he's arguing against, okay, and not providing any sources for the argument that he's using to argue. You know what I mean? He's not just being consistent, he's being completely irrational. He's arguing, well, first of all, he's using the argument against his argument. And secondly, he's using people who are not providing any of the sources to back up the argument against his argument. Okay? It is completely irrational, but let's continue on.
Does a reasonable-minded person draw a conclusion based on that type of evidence? What I've just read here?
So wait, people disagree, and they disagree with no evidence. So they're no. We want the evidence.
If you're irrational, if you use evidence, is what he's telling you. Mm-hmm. You're irrational if you use the closest thing to primary resources.
You're irrational if you use the historical method. Sorry.
Yeah.
I do that. Historical method ruins my prophet's reputation. We can't use that. We got to go find something else. That's what he's doing.
Absolutely not. If you're true to yourself, you're a decent, unbiased person. You
got to be decent, unbiased. Because Kenny's decent. Yeah, Kenny's decent, unbiased.
Okay.
He's decent and unbiased. Right.
Okay. What type of person? What type of person can claim to be decent when they advocate for Muhammad being 54 and Aiesha being 9? What kind of person would be considered decent that does that? Nobody would be considered decent. They would be considered evil if they would come out and advocate for that. And he knows that. And you mentioned, you hit the nail right on the head. At least Kenny has a better sense of morality than what Muhammad did. And that's not using presentism, that word that he used, presentism, is when we judge the past by today's moral ethic or values. No. And the reason why you can't use that application, why he can't use that argument, is because Muhammad is supposed to be the pattern of conduct for all time. Now, if it was just, well, he did that back then, and we really shouldn't be doing that today, I agree with that. But that's not what Islam teaches. They're teaching that Muhammad is the pattern of conduct for all time, and that if he did this, then it is permissible or most likely to be acceptable if you yourself did it. And so these arguments that he's making are just absolutely senseless.
Let's continue. Because it gets, dude, we're only this is the 5-minute clip. We're only 2 minutes and 46 seconds.
Hurry it up.
All right.
Cannot convict someone of a crime based on all these. What are you supposed to believe? There are many articles and books that I can mention. So what does a reasonable person do with this conflicting evidence? Are these theories by these scholars and historians correct?
What evidence? He didn't provide any evidence. Just
He surely didn't show us what a reasonable person was.
Exactly. Let's continue. Sorry.
Which ones are correct? Which ones are wrong? So consider this fact. When you compare the David Wood version of anything related to Islam with the opinions of non-Muslim scholars who have studied Islam and the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, objectively, a whole different narrative about his life and the teachings of Islam come into focus. By example, in the book, What the Quran Meant, Why It Matters, I have it up here, as a matter of fact, by New York Times bestselling author Gary Wills, a non-Muslim, he addresses this marriage on page 189 of his book, and he says, and I quote, Aiesha is reported to have been 9 when Muhammad married her, which has led to a great deal of criticism of the Prophet, but early marriages were common until recently, and no one knows when this one was consummated.
Wait, again.
I actually have a serious question here about this debate. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but it's something that really I've noticed as a through line, and I'm kind of affected by it. He keeps saying a non-Muslim stated this. So what if a non-Muslim stated it? Does that make it valid or more invalid? There are lots of non-Muslims who may respect Islam. That doesn't make the argument more credible. I don't understand why that argument has been heralded over and over throughout this debate.
Oh no, that's a valid point. That's something that I've been asking when I've been listening. So what? Okay, what does that matter? How does that make the argument from non-evidence more valid? I guess what he's saying. Well, look, see, even the non-Muslims.
You can have a non-Muslim that's stupid too.
Right.
Well, but you have non-Muslims who might respect the Prophet of Islam. Like they might, like a Baha'i is not a Muslim, and they respect the Prophet of Islam. So there are people who are not Muslim. So what does that point mean? You might be an leftist.
Exactly.
You might be a leftist who's like, I respect all religions, I respect all figures. That doesn't mean that makes it a more credible source. You're just a leftist progressive person who agrees with that.
Exactly. Well, no, that's the point. But he has to appeal this because the evidence, is against him on this, and it's a good thing that he has to try and do this because that shows he's got a different moral compass. Let me play this again.
Let me just one more comment on that, Red. He also points out that David Wood ignores all the good things that Muhammad did in the past that they find in the Hadith literature. But we don't deny both, trying to make it disclose, number one. But number two, this would be the equivalent of me being a serial killer, or not even just a serial killer. Just I go out and I kill somebody because I hated them and I wanted them dead. And me going before the judge and say, Judge, you just don't understand here. Look, I'm really a good person. Look at all these great things that I've done, all these nice things that I've done to other people in my life. Look at all the people I've helped, all these things that I've taught, all the money that I've given to these orphanages. You can't convict me on one murder that I've committed. This is a stupid argument. This is one of the stupidest arguments that I've heard. How can you sit there and say, well, you can't judge Muhammad by what he did to little Aiesha, when you consider all the great things that he did in the same Hadith literature? Oh yes, you can. Oh yes, you can. This is pure evil. Doing this is pure evil when you do something like this to a little girl.
Like John Wayne Gacy. Okay, I don't know if you guys know who John Wayne Gacy is, but he was someone who impacted my life in the 1970s, because that was the time I remember we could go play outside and run around in the south side of Chicago. John Wayne Gacy came along. Obviously, it ruined everybody's summer. We were locked in tight.
That was Rad. That's Rad's neighbor.
Yeah, no, seriously.
That was the son of Sam in New York. That's what that.
No, seriously.
Right.
We were locked in. That was the first lockdown. Well, not the whole summer, but for a while. But like, oh my God. But no, he was a clown. He actually was invited to the White House, given an award and everything. Yeah, you can't hold those 37 bodies found in his basement against him. No, of course not. He's a good guy, really, at heart. But let me get to what else he says here, because this is kind of funny.
This one was consummated. That's non-Muslim, no dog in the fight. He says no one knows when the marriage is consummated. Gary Wills is saying that.
No one knows. No, but Aiesha was there. She knew.
Because there are differing opinions on the issue, even amongst.
Different opinions based on what? So what? You just said you said in the open thing you're not going to go by opinions, only by the evidence. And you're going by opinion.
Classical Muslim scholars. There are people on both sides who have either attached their emotions, opinions, traditions, false accusations, like this man, to one side or another without looking at all the evidence unbiasedly.
He hasn't quoted any evidence yet. He's only quoting the opinions and the emotions and all this other stuff. He's the one who's arguing. And
instead, they engage in cherry picking information and
like you just did,
information anchoring bias. And sometimes people don't realize that they're doing that, unfortunately. But
yes,
these are logical fallacies. And while other people have an agenda, and obviously David Woods is the type of person.
Oh, but Kenny doesn't have an agenda. No.
Who has an agenda. But a person who looks at all this information about this topic,
he's looking up
and does not allow the opinions of other people to impede on their own logic.
Wait. The only thing he's done is quote opinions of other people. That backs up what he says, and he ignores all the other evidence that are the first primary sources. Do you see? This is just how can someone be this irrational and be this irrational and go out and make a public display of themselves? It's just beyond me.
Well, here's
can only include that.
Pause that for a second, Brad. Here's the comment that I wrote on this particular one when I did all this. I said, on one side, you have conclusive evidence that the most trusted Islamic sources, and on the other, you have Kenny presenting the opinions of Islamic apologists and those who are ignorant of the Islamic sources confirming the age. When we start talking about who's cherry picking here, is David Wood cherry picking or is Kenny cherry picking? The exact opposite. This is projection. You project your shortcomings or your fault, what you're doing, onto somebody else. The one person cherry picking here is Kenny. It's not. It has nothing to do with David.
Confession through confession through projection. But again, yeah, he's not even quoting any sources. Well, he's not quoting any evidence. He's just quoting opinions on people, as we've demonstrated in this show. Opinions of people who reference primary sources, but the reference to those primary sources are completely opposite of what they're saying it says. Completely opposite. They're completely wrong. And let's continue.
Based on all the evidence on this topic, no one knows for sure how old she was. And so that's
Aiesha knew, the greatest scholar in Islam, according to Kenny. Yeah,
it's the facts. So when we can go back and forth between this hadith and that hadith and mention what this guy.
He doesn't mention any hadith so far. Yeah, just
no. We go back. He says we can go back and forth between this hadith and that hadith. You're exactly right. We can go back and forth. We should go back with the sources that we're closest to, are supposed to be, because I don't believe the hadith to begin with, but it doesn't matter. He does. You should go back there if you're actually going to do scholarship. So to say that we can go to this hadith to that hadith, he hasn't produced any hadith on his oon that confirms his position that she wasn't 9 years old. All he's doing is just pointing to articles, pointing to books that people wrote, 1,400 years later, or articles. He's not producing any type of evidence whatsoever to demonstrate that she was anything but 9 years old. None. And then yet he's calling David Wood a propagandist, a hate monger, a hate, Islamaphobe, all these, god awful names for actually quoting his own sources or taking a position that his own sources insist what was her age. It's sick. It really is.
All right.
Sorry.
We got only a few seconds left of this clip because they're hold on, let's play it.
Versus that scholar, or we can be honest, admit that the fact is There are no facts that can actually be truly established regarding her age because there's much disagreement on the issue. The scholars disagree. The Muslim scholars themselves disagree. They have been debating the topic for decades. And so
wait. They've been debating the topic for decades, not centuries, only for decades. Did you hear that? The Muslim scholars have only been debating this topic for like the last 20 years because it wasn't a problem.
You know where they debate this topic?
Because
not in Pakistan. They don't debate this topic in Saudi Arabia. They don't debate this topic in Muslim majority countries. Why? Because
exactly.
That's a pasta or not.
Chopping time. All right, let me play this clip. It's 15 seconds. You're gonna love this clip. Get ready for this. Okay.
And so David Wood doesn't mention, that in Islamic law on this issue that a person cannot marry under the fiqh. A person cannot marry until they've reached the age of puberty, but they also have to be mentally and emotionally ready. So how in the world is
that true?
Hold on. I wrote something about that. Okay, we've started traditions. You can include. Okay, where in the Reliance of the Travel does it list this criteria for marriage at puberty?
It doesn't.
Be mentally ready. Where is it, Paul?
It doesn't.
Oh, what? No. Brad, replay that.
There's
clip.
no mental preparation required. It's just what she can be. She cannot. She doesn't even have to
and
consent.
So David Wood
Her
doesn't
silence
mention,
is considered consent.
Go ahead.
Let's play it again.
And so David Wood doesn't mention, that in Islamic law on this issue that a person cannot marry under the fiqh. A person cannot marry until they've reached the age of puberty, but they also have to be mentally and emotionally ready.
I would.
Okay. Notice that he says that a person cannot marry. We indeed common. Let's see. Consummated 9 practices were indeed common. Okay, so he's saying that these practices were common. Am I wrong on that? Is that what he said? That he said these are common practices? Okay, I would like him to show me. I would like him to produce any type of evidence that demonstrates that it was common, not for a young girl to be married. I want him to produce evidence that it was common for a young girl to be married by an old man, by a man old enough, most readily old enough to be her grandfather. That's the evidence. If you're going to make, this is the thing. He's making all kinds of statements without producing any type of evidence for it, or even pointing to even if the evidence exists. This is the same type of thing to say, well, girls matured faster in Saudi Arabia in the 7th century. No, they didn't. If they did, well, then I'd like to see some type of anthropological evidence for this. So I would like to see some type of evidence where you've dug up graves and said, well, this girl's 14 years old. Well, how are you going to determine the age to begin with? Number one, but number two, how are you going to show that she was old or younger than what most girls that age were when they were going through puberty?
I think there's an interesting question that's brought up here, which is ethical or religious relativism, because that's what it sounds like. It's saying, and I mean, this is a difficult space. If something is timeless and lasts for all time and comes from the omniscient, omnibenevolent, omnipotent God entity, then it's difficult. This is a very difficult question. How could there be relativism? The only way you could argue is if, I know in this space, a lot of time the argument is about prescriptive versus descriptive. That you'd have to have some kind of argument like that, because if God is timeless and ethics have lasted forever, then this issue is deeply problematic. And I think this is an issue. If you're not taking like a leftist Islamic perspective and you're taking an Islamic perspective where you're like, well, the Quran is timeless and everything, and I think that's the argument that we're hearing here, and this impact is forever, then you're going to have to wrestle with this. I think it's a valid, meritorious thing to say we need to wrestle with this position.
Yeah, good luck getting him to do that, though. That's
okay. Okay. So first of all,
I agree.
So the reliance of the traveler doesn't say anything about being mature or anything. The reliance of the traveler actually says that girls can be married at 9 years of age. Okay, the Reliance of the Traveler and the Quran actually and at Al Tabari or no, I'm sorry, Ibn Kathir all state that the stipulation, the waiting period on divorcing a prepubescent girl, it actually says that, okay, because they're too young to have their period, okay, um, okay, is 3 months, okay. So no, what he just said, that Islamic law states, the fiqh states that you cannot marry prepubescent girls, is completely and totally false, which David Wood does bring up in rebuttal here. But I do want to play one other clip, and then I do got to play the longer 10-minute thing, and I'm going to put myself on mute because I do got to go to the washroom, and I do got to have a smoke. But no, seriously, you got to listen to David Wood's rebuttal in its full. It is brilliant. But let's play. Here you go. Kenny
Just
Wood's
remember
final
to
point.
just remember to go into the washroom with your right foot first, okay?
Right. I deliberately go on my left foot just for that reason alone. But here we go. Last 15-second clip, and then it's going to go straight to David Wood's rebuttal. But listen to this again. He highlights the only two people that were there. Here we go.
So how in the world is David Wood convinced that she was 9? Were you there, David? Was anyone else there? Only 2 people were there: the Prophet, peace be upon him, and Aiesha, and only Allah knows when that marriage was consummated. No Muslim knows.
And Aiesha said she was 9.
All right, for anyone just tuning in, we're debating whether.
Wait, I sorry I was going to let it play, but no, I do have to comment. Only 2 people were there, and only Allah knows. No Muslim was there. So Aiesha wasn't a Muslim, evidently. Kenny just threw Aiesha under the bus, declared her a kafir and not a Muslim, because if no Muslim was there, and there were only 2 people were there, clearly Muhammad's a Muslim, so therefore only Aiesha is a non-Muslim. But anyway, let's continue. You guys got to hear David Wood's rebuttal because it's totally funny. And like I said, I go to the washroom. So here we go.
It's immoral for a man who's the pattern of conduct for billions of people to marry a girl who's young enough to be his granddaughter and to have sex with her when she's only 9 years old. I'm arguing that Muhammad's marriage to Aiesha was immoral. Kenny's arguing that Muhammad's marriage to Aiesha wasn't immoral. In my opening statement, I showed that Aiesha was indeed 9 years old when Muhammad had sex with her. I presented what's called an even if, but in fact argument. Even if Aiesha had reached puberty when Muhammad had sex with her, it was immoral because sex with young girls puts them at risk. But in fact, Aiesha hadn't reached puberty, and so the relationship was especially heinous. How did Kenny respond? He says, I'm guilty of presentism for applying modern standards to Muhammad. And I agree, it's not always a good idea to apply our standards to other people around the world or to people down through the centuries. The problem here is that Muhammad is the pattern of conduct for Muslims in the present. And so the present is relevant. And he's the pattern of conduct for Muslims in the United States. So this is all relevant for discussion here. He says, I'm trying to demonize all Muslims. I'm attacking all Muslims. Not at all. Most Muslims live far better lives than their prophet ever lived. So hats off to them. He says, I didn't tell you that Aiesha was happily married. And he says that Aiesha could have spoken up if she'd been abused. Yeah, it was really safe to say what a horrible person Muhammad was in that culture where you'd be killed for saying such a thing. And by the way, Aiesha said that she wanted a monogamous relationship, whereas Muhammad had 9 wives, and not counting his slave girls. And so that was an ongoing source of distress for her. He says that Muslim scholars agree that there was no wrongdoing. Why do they agree that there's no wrongdoing? Because you won't criticize Muhammad. If you did have a problem with it, you'd be ex-Muslims and you'd be endlessly ridiculed by Muslims. I think Kenny said that we can't. Yeah, we said that we can't prove her age. How many references did I give? Now notice, just notice that. We'll talk about this more, but Kenny quoted a variety of sources. Who was he quoting? Gary Wills or something like that? Who was I quoting? Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abu Dawud. Sunan an-Nasai, Sunan Ibn Majah, the history of At-Tabari, Ibn Kathir. These are who I'm quoting. Who is he quoting? Gary Wills? Who? Modern, the encyclopedia of what? Is this how Islam works? The Islamophobes quote authentic Muslim sources, and then the opponents quote none. The defenders of Islam quote the encyclopedia of such and such. Interesting methodology going on here. So he quotes the New World Encyclopedia and other sources saying that she may have been 12 to 14 or older. He quotes someone who says that Ibn Ishaq and Ibn Kathir and others say that she was in her late teens. This is very easy. It's very easy to show how this works. Ibn Ishaq, page such and such, says she was 14. Give the reference. Give the reference. Ibn Kathir, on page such and such, says she was 14 or 16 or 18. What did Ibn Kathir say? I literally read the reference. Ibn Kathir says there's no dispute, zero, no dispute at all on Muhammad having sex with Aiesha when she was 9 years old. Somehow we get these mystery references where Aiesha was much older. And it's very simple. Ibn Kathir, volume what, page what. It's very simple methodology. Who else did he quote? Leslie Hazelton, saying she was 19. He said he read all 10 books on the table and they all gave a different age for Aiesha, so we just don't know how old she is. You can't convict someone of a crime when there's conflicting evidence. Well, if the conflicting evidence doesn't come until 14 centuries later, right? You wouldn't get off on a crime because 14 centuries later, everyone started arguing about something because they were embarrassed by it, right? The Muslims did not disagree on this in the 2nd century, the 3rd century, the 4th century, all the way down to the time of Ibn Kathir centuries later. No disagreement until then. The disagreements come from modern Muslims who are ashamed of their prophet because of what he did. He said Muslim scholars disagree on their ages. Yeah, they disagree now. They didn't disagree in the 2nd century after Muhammad or the 3rd century or so on. They disagree now because it's so embarrassing for them. Then Kenny said that a person in Islam can't marry until they've reached the age of puberty. Did we entirely miss the discussion of Surah 65, verse 4? Surah 65, verse 4, which gives divorce proceedings for divorcing a girl who's too young to have reached puberty after you've had sex with her. So let me go ahead and read this. Surah 65, verse 4, we'll read the beginning. And those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, for them the iddah, that's the waiting period after you divorce them, so in case they get married again. If you have doubts about their periods is 3 months. And for those who have no courses, no monthly period, for those who have no courses, i.e. they are still immature, their prescribed period is 3 months likewise. So girls who don't have a monthly menstrual cycle because they're immature. And in case you think I'm misinterpreting this, Tafsir of Ibn Kathir says this refers to the young who have not reached the years of menstruation. Tafsir Jalalain, one of the most popular commentaries of all time, says this means, and also for those who have not yet menstruated because of their young age, their period shall also be 3 months. Tafsir Ibn Abbas, one of Muhammad's companions, he says that he gives the historical background here. Muhammad's giving these rules for divorce, upon which another man asked, "O Messenger of Allah, what about the waiting period of those who do not have menstruation because they are too young?" And then we have the answer in Surah 65, verse 4. Tafsir of Maududi, modern Muslim scholar. He says, therefore, after discussing the issue, he says, therefore, making mention of the waiting period for the girls who have not yet menstruated clearly proves that it is not only permissible to give away the girl in marriage at this age, but it is also permissible for the husband to consummate marriage with her. Now, obviously, no Muslim has the right to forbid a thing which the Quran has held permissible. So not only does he say, yeah, that's the rule, he says no Muslim can forbid marrying and having sex with a prepubescent girl because you'd be contradicting Allah. We're standing in the presence, we're sitting in the presence of greatness here. This is someone who gets to overrule Allah in the Quran and who knows what these verses mean greater than the greatest Islamic scholars of all time, the greatest Islamic commentators of all time, Ibn Abbas, Ibn Kathir, the two Jalals. They all agree. And yet, well, we've got Gary Wills, so and the encyclopedia, the New World Encyclopedia. All right, so what else do we have? He said, throughout history, puberty has been considered the age for marriage. Well, if puberty's considered the age for marriage, you can't use the bandwagon fallacy here, because that would just condemn Islam, because Muhammad had sex with Aiesha when she was 9 years old. And I quoted Bukhari. I quoted Bukhari on Aiesha not reaching puberty. We can go through more. She was allowed to continue playing with dolls. Why? Dolls were forbidden. Dolls were images. Dolls were forbidden. She was still playing with dolls when she was taken to Muhammad's house to consummate the marriage. Why was she allowed to play with dolls? We're told she hadn't reached puberty. She hadn't reached the age of accountability. So she was allowed to go ahead and continue playing with dolls. So if puberty is the age for marriage, then Allah and Muhammad stand condemned. Kenny said, lots of people down through history have married young girls. Yes, and we can look back and say, well, maybe they didn't know any better. Muhammad is the pattern of conduct for all time. The Quran, which says you can marry prepubescent girls, is the word of Allah. And so this is quite relevant today, right? We can look back at earlier generations and say, okay, they didn't know any better. I would expect Allah to know better. And if it's wrong to have sex with a prepubescent girl, then I would expect Allah to pick a better pattern of conduct. And finally, Kenny said this story is narrated by only one guy with a bad memory. And this is common, and this happens from people recycling the same articles, which are all filled with lies. And fortunately, we have Muslim scholars themselves who look at these horrible articles filled with misinformation. And we have Muslim scholars themselves who just say, this is complete nonsense, these are lies. So Jibril Fuad Haddad responded to the same ridiculous story about this only coming from one narrator. He said, try more than 11 authorities from among the Tabi'in that reported it directly from Aiesha, not counting the other major companions that reported the same, nor other major successors that reported it from other than Aiesha. So what do we have? Just one guy reported it, and you can't trust him. What do we have from Muslims themselves? No, 11 different people who reported it directly from Aiesha, and that's not counting the other companions who reported it from themselves. So 11 people reported directly from Aiesha that she was 9 years old when Muhammad consummated the marriage with her, and other people said it as well. And what do we got? I'm still looking for a reference. Aiesha was 18. Which verse? I mean, which passage in Bukhari? Which passage in Muslim? Where in Ibn? Where? Who says she was 16 or 18? Nowhere. People just make these things up and then they pass them all around.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Wood, for your.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can't hear me. I have myself muted.
So pretty much David Wood just said everything we said, obviously. But here's kind of a funny thing. I mean, just going back to the Ashkenazi thing or Ashkenazi thing, he's arguing that the age of if she was he's actually arguing against, because I've been thinking about this. He's actually arguing against that Aiesha was 14 years of age, because if she was 14 years of age, then that would mean that she was definitely committing idolatry because she was still playing with dolls. So he's actually arguing against that position by saying no, she was actually 9. But that's beside the point. But there you have it. I don't know. Did you want to end at 6, or did you want to listen to the cross?
No, we need to cut it short.
Okay. Because the cross examination is just brilliant. Kenny just totally implodes and melts down. He gets all upset. I think he even pounds the desk, maybe. I can't forget. But you look at
He cries. Don't forget that part.
Yeah, but if you look at Kenny's expression during this whole rebuttal, he's just got this huge frown. He's just like, oh, no. But anyway, Kenny, if you're listening, we know you are listening. Seriously, I hope you come up with something better in a week. By the way, Eric, how are we going to do this? Because it's $1 you got to pay for it to listen. do we want to do a live stream of it or a spy stream or
When is this again? Is it Saturday
Saturday? Yeah, like 6 o'clock, I think, Central
at
Time.
night?
Yeah, 6. I think that's.
I don't know. I'll have to give it some thought. I would prefer to be able to analyze it other than just doing like a live. Is that what you're saying? Is do like a
spy stream, kind of like watch it and simulcast it. All right, well, we can, let's just publish it.
I don't know if there's copyright issues with that or not. I don't know.
Right. Well, there's no copyright issues with this because I got this all from Act 17 from David Wood's site, so we have full permission to play it. Okay, so yeah. So Kenny, good luck. Go ahead, take it down. Yeah, not gonna happen.
Okay, so what we can conclude here is that this Saturday night is probably going to be another epic takedown, and I was looking at if you all remember that video that Yasser Qadi made about saying that it's not the way forward, or whatever what did he call them, Sahi or Yahi or whatever he called them. It's not the way forward. We have to be honest about this. We have to treat it honestly.
Right.
All of the arguments that Yasser Qadi made in that video, Kenny made. So he basically watches Yasser Qadi's video, but doesn't agree with Yasser Qadi, but steals all of his arguments, with the exception, Yasser Qadi makes an allusion, goes, well, people married younger back then. Look at Romeo and Juliet. They were 14 and 15 years old. Yeah, that's true, but Juliet wasn't 14 and wasn't 54. That's the biggest difference.
Exactly.
It wouldn't have been an epic play if Romeo would have been that old. So
no, it would have been an epic embarrassment.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, folks, we're going to cut it and call it a day. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Everybody in chat that was here today, thank you for coming and opining. We had quite a bit of people in chat submitting their comments, and I appreciate and I enjoy reading those as we go along. Rad, I appreciate all the work that you did on that this week, getting this ready. Or it wasn't even this. Was it just yesterday that we came up with this idea, or was it Friday?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What's the show about this week? I don't know. What do you think? It's kind of how roll it out. But anyway, you did a great job with that, and everybody that was on the panel, I appreciate you all coming and spending your Sunday afternoon with us here on the Crescent discussion group. We'll see you all next Sunday. God bless you.
Close.
What?
The cold close. You got
advanced student and specialist. That the standard narrative has holes. That's what
That's all, folks.